everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. On today's show, I thought I would dedicate this show to Bob Ross. He's the guy who really inspired me to become a creative person, to believe in myself, to know that if I believed in who I was, I could become anything that I wanted to be. And I started out actually doing some oil type paintings in the Bob Ross style, and I really enjoyed it. Later on, I got into photography, and now I got into photo art, and I love it. And Topaz Studio lets us be able to really bring this side of us out. So again, I want to dedicate this episode to Bob Ross, and he has a YouTube channel, which I'll link in the description below, this particular YouTube channel, and it has tons of Bob Ross shows on there, and I think you'll like them. If you're having a hard day and you just want to mellow out, put on a Bob Ross. It'll help you out. Well, today we're looking at Topaz Studio 2. We're looking at Impression, the nice plugin from Topaz, which enables us to turn our photographs into beautiful digital paintings. And I think you're going to like this episode. We're going to really dig into this impression filter, and hopefully when we're done, you'll understand it a lot better, and you'll be able to make your own happy little paintings. So let's get started. Well, let's dig into this impression filter, one of my all-time favorite Topaz filters. When they came out with this filter, I was a very excited and happy person. So now I can take my photos and turn them into works of art. So let's get started here. We're in the fall season, so I thought, let's make a nice little fall painting. And I really like this image that I got off of, it was pixabay.com. And let's get started here. So let's come up here to Add Filter, come down to Impression. I couldn't wait to get started on this one. So in Impression, when we click it on already, we can see we have a happy little painting. So notice here, of course, we have the opacity slider, the blend modes. We have the presets down here. Let's click on the presets and see. And we used to have a lot more presets in Topaz Studio 1, and hopefully we'll get more back into Topaz Studio 2. And I'm sure the Topaz guys are working on that, and gals. Now, we can also click this little icon here and see more presets at once. Want to see less, more details, and this shows you what these particular presets will do to your image. Let's just click on one here, like let's click on this one that says photo painting and see what it does. Okay, there's photo painting. So you can click on these different presets. To get rid of them, just click right here. Sometimes I'll start with a preset, but I usually like to just go and do my own thing. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you how all this works. So we have the strokes here, and you notice we have tons of different strokes in here. We can do pencil type sketches, watercolors, whatever we want to do, all by using the different strokes here. All right, and let's come down here. Now we have number of strokes. We have a low amount of strokes. Now let me click that and you'll see the difference. There's a low, there's a medium, more detail, and there's a high. So we're getting a lot more paint strokes. All right, so let's start out by, let's leave this on. And usually I'm sitting around medium and low, but sometimes I'll go to high as well. But let's start out in medium. Let's take our brush size and let's move it to the right and see what happens here. You notice how those strokes are getting larger. Let me just pull in a little bit so you can actually see what's happening here. So move it the whole way to the right. You see those paint strokes are really getting big. Now if I start to drag it to the left, they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now here, this is something really cool, and I want to point this out. As you make your brush smaller, you'll notice the image is going all white here. You got a lot of white areas showing through. The reason that is because, and this throws a lot of people, because they may say, I like these small brush strokes, but I don't want my canvas or my picture looking all white like this. So what you want to do is drag down on the adjustments over here and come down to where it says texture and keep dragging down till you come to where it says background type. We're going to go into all these textures and things in a little bit, but first things first. So you notice we have background type solid or original. Watch what happens when I click original. Your picture comes back. All right. The reason being there is where the paint strokes aren't covering, you're going to see the canvas show through. Now this is really cool because, and I like that Topaz did this, because traditional painters will start with a color to their canvas. In other words, let me just click on color here and we get our little color wheel. So usually they'll start out with something like more like a sepia type color. And then, of course, you can come to this luminance slider here, and you can drag this and make that color darker or lighter. So it's nice to start out with a canvas color in case you want to show some of the canvas coming through the image. Okay, so you would do something like that and click OK. But if you don't want anything to show through, just click original. So very important. A lot of times I do just leave it on original. So let's come back to the top and start working through these sliders again. Okay, so there's our brush size. So let's move our brush size up. And usually what I'll do is I'll start with the first stroke here. And then I'll just kind of work on my brush, get my brush adjusted the way I like it. So let's play with our brush size. I'm going to leave it on medium for now. Let's take our paint volume and move this to the right. And notice how the image is starting to get lighter. So that's lightening up the actual paint of the image. And then we have a large brush volume. And that'll adjust how much of that paint is showing through. So if I move the whole way up to the right, we're getting a lot through. I don't know if you can see that, but it's altering it. And think of these, again, as a fine-tune adjustment like I told you in past filters. These are more like fine-tuning and tweaking. And then we have paint opacity. How much paint do you want to see? See the difference there? Now, I'm zoomed in, so let me zoom back out so you can actually see what's happening when I take this paint opacity back. See how we can get a different look there? And this is the fun of this filter. It's just playing with all these sliders and getting that look. And you get excited, you know, when you start moving these around. You say, ooh, that looks cool. Let's keep playing. Now we have stroke rotation. So let me zoom in a little bit and see if you can see those strokes changing their rotation. See them turning? So you can turn them any direction you want them. Or you can bring them back to the default position. A lot of times I like the default position. I might just move that stroke rotation a little bit just to spice things up a bit. And now we have rotation variation. So if you want those strokes to have some variation to them, not always going one direction, you can add some variation to them by adjusting the rotation variation. So just play with it. You get a look you like. I'm just going to leave mine off, and let me just revisit the stroke rotation. I'm just going to leave it off for now. And then I'm going to come to this stroke color variation and stroke width here in a second. But first, let's come back up. No, you know what? I take that back. We'll come to the color variation in a second, but let's bypass color variation, go to stroke width. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Now watch when I take the stroke width to the left. See, I'm getting more of that sketch look. Isn't that cool? Isn't it neat? So we can adjust how wide those strokes are. Can you see those strokes widening out as I move it up? Okay. And a lot of times it helps too just to back up and see the whole image here and just adjust your stroke till you say, till that little hint of awe hits you and you say, yes, this is it. That's the look I want. Right. Maybe right there. Okay. And now we have stroke length, and this will lengthen the strokes out. So we can make the strokes longer, or we can make the strokes shorter, depending on what kind of a look you want. And you just play. And I'm going to try to make a happy little painting today. So I'm just going to adjust it as I go along. Now let's zoom in here. The next one down is called spill. And what it'll do is it'll take these paints and they'll spill out over the edges, which can be really cool. So let me start to move it to the right. Can you see them starting to spill out? See down here on this cloth area here, they're spilling out over. So we can play with that and get it to look just the way we like it. So let's pull this back. Okay, so I'm liking a little bit of that spill, so maybe right around in there. I'm going to come back up and revisit all the brush strokes, by the way. And smudge. This is cool, and I'm sure you've seen these on the Topaz users group. A lot of people like to make the smudge type paintings. And you just pull the smudge up and you get that smudgy look into your image. That's really cool. Or if you just want to tone your image down a little bit, take some of the edge off the paint strokes, just maybe move that slightly to the right a little bit and just ease up on those edges of the paint strokes a little bit. So that's cool. We're going to get into the coverage here in a second and the painting progress. That's a really cool one. So let's come back up to our strokes. All right, to the very top. And Right now we're on this stroke type 04. Let me click type 01. And you'll notice when I do that, look at the different looks we get. So there's type 01. Here's type 02. You can just play through these. Now, if you get one that you kind of like, you can go back and readjust the strokes on it. In fact, I'm actually liking type 1 and type 2. So I'm just going to go through them all so you can see them. But you notice they're all unique type strokes. And of course, you can adjust all the adjustments like the brush width and the length of the strokes. Now we're getting more into the sketchy type strokes like this. You can do like charcoal drawings and things like that. All you would do is remove the color from the image and adjust your strokes to taste. There's another type of a stroke. Here's another. Just go through all these real quick so you can see what they're doing. And they're all interacting differently. Okay. Let's go through them real quick so you can see. I like that one. This is more of that, I believe the painter's name is Surratt, and he painted with little dots on his screen. And these are more of those type of brushes here. These guys down here. And you can adjust these sizes. For instance, let's just play with this one right here and take this brush size down. See that? We can make those dots smaller. So that looks really cool, and I kind of like that. But I digress. Let me come back up to the top because I was liking that sketchy type look somewhere in there. And I'm going to come here and look at low. Let's see what low looks like. There's low. More of a whimsical look. Medium. A little more definition there in the strokes. And then high. A lot more definition. So depending what you like. And it's all up to you. It's your world. You can do, like Barbara said, you can do anything you want in your world. You want big brush strokes. You want small brush strokes. You want dots like Surratt painted with. You can do that as well. I'm going to go with low because I just like the look it's giving me. More of a painterly type look. Now let me just come down and maybe adjust my stroke width and length a little bit. So do I want it more sketchy like this? And that looks really cool. Or do I want it a little more painterly? So I can come here and adjust it. So maybe I like it right around there. Now let's go with the length. Do I want a longer length? No. Do I want a shorter length? I might want maybe right around there. I think that's looking good for my vision right now. I do have my glasses on. All right. And again, there's the smudge. We can smudge it a little bit. Or the spill. Let's play with that spill and see how much spill we want in there. Maybe just a little bit. I like that right there. I think it looks really cool. I love what's happening to these potatoes over here and this watermelon. And some apples. What a beautiful fall scene. I love this time of the year. All right, so now let me show you this one here called Painting Progress. This is the coolest thing. In the original impression piece of software, they didn't have Painting Progress. They added it to Topaz Studio 1 and they brought it into Topaz Studio 2. But watch what happens when I move this to the left. See, it's like when you're starting the painting, you're just starting to lay down paint. Like that, starting to lay down your strokes, and you move it to the right, you're building, you're building, you're building, you're building, you're building some more. And this is nice too if you have your solid color background on. Like if you wanted to have one of these styles of paintings where you want that background canvas to show through. See that? Isn't that cool? You know, you can just do what you like. And I actually like, it's kind of fun with that little background canvas showing through, so I might do that. Now let me just come and click on the background color here. I'm just playing as I go here. And maybe just darken that up just a little bit. Maybe somewhere in there, and I like that. And let's click OK. So let's come back up. And there's a couple sliders I didn't show you yet, and that's the coverage slider. Now this is really cool. Let me just move this coverage to the left, and you'll see what happens here. See how the canvas is starting to show through in the background? And that's a nice look. That's a nice painterly type look when you do stuff like that. And so if you move it the whole way to the left, and this is where I like to start, move it the whole way to the left, take the coverage transition, move it the whole way to the left. And you see that little circle right there. Now, come here where it says coverage center. And when I adjusted this coverage, this little coverage center magically appeared here. But you can take this dot and you can drag it all around to any place or click on here anywhere you like it. Or you can get this targeted tool right here and click anywhere you want in the canvas. If you want to come back to the center, just give that a click right in the center. And I think in the center looks really nice. All right, so then what I like to do is take the coverage and start to open it up. And you notice it's using the edge technology that Topaz is so famous for. And move that up, it's grabbing the edges of things. And that's looking kind of cool. Now take the coverage transition, we'll kind of just start to transition and smooth that out with a gradation. So you can get a nice painterly look. And something like that looks really nice, and I like that. I don't usually use the coverage so much, so for me today, I wanted to show it to you because you may like that. And I do like it, and I might do some paintings with it, but for now, I'm just going to take the coverage and move it the whole way to the right. Did I forget anything in here? I don't think I did. So, I'm pretty happy with the way the painting looks so far. Don't forget, you always have this opacity slider, so you can take it and you can pull it back and reveal some of the original painting through if you want to too. So don't forget about that. That's a really cool feature. But for now, I just want a full-blown painting, so I'm going to leave it up. All right, next we're going to move on to the next three sections. We're going to start with color, move to lighting, and then move to texture. You can add a really nice canvas texture background to your image, which is really, really cool. And of course, my painting progress is right here. So let me see, do I want it? See, the more I move it to the right, the more defined it gets again, right? So, but I love this, play with this painting progress, because you can get some really cool looks to your image. And I kind of just finding a spot that I like. And sometimes you just have to decide and say, that's it. Don't touch it. All right, right there. I'm going to leave it right there. Next, we go to color. Before I move on to the color, there was one adjustment I forgot to show you, and that is this stroke color variation. Watch what happens when I start to drag this slider to the right. See the little color variations coming into the image? Now, if I take it the whole way to the right, a lot more will get in there. And that, if that's the look you're looking for, great. But I don't want quite that much, but I would just want a little bit of color variation. I think that looks really nice, and I just wanted to show that to you. All right, so we come to color here. Let's give that a click. And this is just like the HSL filter. In fact, it's identical. So we have the overall saturation here, so we can adjust the hue. We can adjust the saturation. Double click these to set them back, and we can adjust the overall lightness. All right. So that's the overall, and I'm happy with that. But then we have these different colors here. So if we hover over these colors, can you see these lines in the image that appear over the colors? Kind of helps you find out where those colors are hitting at. And you can just see where all the colors sit on your image. So there's not much blue in here, or purple, or magenta, but there is red. So let's click on red first. And let me see what happens if I darken my red. So I'm going to do my red lightness first and just darken that up just a little bit. What happens if I add a little more saturation to it? Maybe just a little extra saturation there, and let's play with the hue a little bit. And I might just play with that hue because I'm getting a few little extra colors that are popping out in that pomegranate there. When I adjust that hue a little bit, let's pull the saturation up a little bit there. No, not too much, right around there. Let's go to the next color, like the oranges. And our carrots might do nice with this, so let's give us a little extra orange in there. It's also affecting our pomegranate and some of the other colors too. Let's check the lightness. Let's make it darker or lighter. Maybe just a smidge lighter. And I think the hue is good, but let me just check it. Yeah, I'm going to double click the hue. I think that's good. And yellow is the last color I want to look at here. So let's take our yellows up. Let's take our yellows back. We may want to pull them back, but you can get a lot of nice, cool looks to your image here. Let me see. I think the yellows are good where they're at. Let's try their lightness here. No, I think that looks good too. I think I'm going to leave them. Let's play with their hue. I might just alter the hue a little bit more to the orange side. Maybe right there. I think that looks good. Okay, now let's move on to the lighting section. So let's click on color and close that up and click on lighting. All right, and of course we have just brightness. We can brighten up the overall image or darken it up a little bit, depending what mood we're looking for. I'm going to make it a little bit darker, I think. I like the way that looks. We can add some more contrast to it or take some contrast out. I think I might just leave it there. I'm going to double click contrast to get it back to the center position. And let's see the highlights. So I'm going to pull the highlights back. If we get our lights looking a little bit too blown out, we can pull that back a little bit. Now the shadows. We can either open these shadows up, or I might just darken them just a little bit, maybe somewhere in there. And let me go back to my brightness here and just maybe just bring that back up a little bit, maybe right about there. Now this lighting position you see right here, this deals with the actual textures. It really won't affect the picture here. And of course we have a vignette here. Now when I move this vignette to the right, look, we got a whole bunch more sliders just popped up here. Vignette. So it's defaulted at the black vignette color. And of course, like on the vignette filter I showed you, it's the same thing where you can add color to the edges and things like that. I'm not going to go there because this video is getting a little bit long. But if we just want to add a little bit of vignetting to it, we can do that. But this works just like the vignette filter, so you already know how to do that. So I just want a little bit of vignette around the edge, just something like that. Of course, we can adjust the strength to make it darker or lighter, but I think maybe right around there looks good. And that's the lighting section. Okay, now we're moving on to the texture section. So let's just close up the lighting section by clicking this here, and we already had our texture section open. So this is a really cool thing here. We can add canvas textures and different types of textures, concrete or whatever, to our image. All right, which is really nice. And let me zoom in here a little bit so you can actually see the texture. So let's take the texture strength and pull it up. When we do, we get another slider called texture size. I like how Topaz do that. So let's pull this texture up right here so you can see a texture on there. Right now I have this Canvas 5 texture on, which I think looks really good with this image, and that's the one I want to use. But let me show you some others. There's like an angled weave, and you can adjust the strength here. You can adjust the size of it, make it larger or smaller, depending what you want. Double click to get them back to the center position, the detemp position, or default position, and of course the strength. Okay, so we can adjust that. But there's all kind of textures in here. There's paper textures, there's marble, there's even metal holes. So I mean, you got all kinds to play with. So, but the one I liked was, I think it was Canvas 5 right here. So I'm going to go with that one because I think that gives us a really nice painterly look. Now, here's a little point for you. If you're going to print this on like a canvas print, I would not apply a texture to it. I would leave it alone. But for presenting it online and you want it to look like a painting, then by all means put a texture on it. But if you're going to print it on a canvas print, I don't think I would do it. If you're printing it on just on paper, it's fine. It's going to give you that textured look, so it looks really nice. So I would maybe pull it back right around there. Now let me just zoom out. You probably won't see it as much, but when I zoom in, you can really see it. But even myself here on my screen, I can see it, but sometimes the recording doesn't show it through as much, but it gives you a really nice, interesting, authentic painter look. So, and we went over everything else there. Well, that's basically it. That's the impression filter, and hats off to Bob Ross for inspiring me to get into this kind of artistic expression. Thank you, Bob, and someday we'll see you again. There is one thing I forgot to show you. Now, let me slide back up here. And it was under lighting. And remember, I told you, and you probably thought, well, are you going to come back to that, Dave? And that is this light position. Now, let's zoom in here. Now, look at our texture here. This is the lighting source. It's coming from the right. If I come and move it over to the left by clicking over here, can you see the texture looks a little different? And if I come down to the bottom, it'll change the appearance of the texture. So you may want to play around with this, and you can just slide this around if you like. And if you come to the center, it's basically going to hide the texture. But if you take it to the corners, it's going to show the strongest. And I think it shows the most strongest up here in the right-hand upper corner. Now, I can take it and start to drag it into the center. And or just click anywhere on here, and wherever you click, it's going to get a little weaker the closer you come to the center. So I just wanted to point that out. It's a really good little tip. But for now, I just want to see all that glorious texture. So there it is. So let's look at the before and after. Let's come up to this eyeball up here. Here's our before, and here's our after. Big difference, right? We got ourselves a nice fall autumn painting. Well, there you have it, the impression filter inside of Topaz Studio 2. I love it. Please give it a try. It's really awesome. I hope this video has helped you. If it has helped you, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And also, if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please do so and click that bell notification icon. This way you'll be informed of all the new training videos that I have coming out. Well, thanks again for joining me on The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I'll see everyone right here